So now I've got my first field. Maybe I want to add another section. We'll call this one Notes. So now I've got a second section. I'm going to add a field to that. I'm going to call that field Notes. I'm going to select the section here and say I want it to be under the Notes section. I'm going to hit this type and I'm going to change the type to Notes. And now I've got some notes. Now let me just go over this real quickly because I kind of breezed over it. Every field has with it a field section that it's associated with. It has the name, that's what you'll see above it. Like maybe it's login, maybe it says password. It's going to have a type. This just tells me how to handle the data that's inside your field. And then this is the actual value that you're storing. So now I hit create. And now I'll hit done here. So now what you see is you see one section called main section, a second section called notes. We have the field name here, URL. Here the field name is notes. And here's the value, facebook.com. And here's the value, some notes. Now, what you'll notice right away is because I selected this as notes, you get a bigger area, and so you could actually store a lot of notes inside here, and they show up on this bigger area because I figure you want more area for your notes. You'll notice here you have a URL, and because you set the type to be a hyperlink, when you tap this little disclosure guy here, you can then launch the URL in Safari or copy it to a clipboard. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it to Safari. And you can see we come to Facebook. And then you could enter your username and password. So that's kind of handy to be able to launch straight to the website that your key is pointing to. Alright, so let's go back in here. And back to the Twitter thing. Alright, so also, like with notes, you can just copy them to a clipboard. Let's add one more field. We'll call it password. So the name is going to be password. The type will be a password type. And the field value let's go ahead and generate a password so we can see another feature in Password Caddy. So I'm going to tap this here. So when you want to generate a password, you can generate a password as short as 4 characters and as long as 20 characters. You can choose whether you want to use lowercase letters in it, uppercase letters, numbers, special symbols, or brackets. And any of these being on, you're guaranteed to have at least one of those items in the password that we generate. So let's go ahead and generate a password. And you can see I have uppercase, lowercase, and numbers. If I turn this on here, we should get a special symbol as well. So you can see you can just keep generating until you find something that you really like. Then just tap use this password and it fills it in for you. And then you just hit create and now you've got a new password field. Now you'll notice that I hide these by default so that someone that's looking over your shoulder doesn't just see your password just because you have this open. You have to actually hit the disclosure guy here to reveal the password. So that's kind of handy to be able to, by default, it hides it. And then if you want to edit it, you just tap it and it's going to take you over there. Any of these fields that you want to edit, just tap on them. They're going to take you over there. And you can edit the value directly. Well, what's even nicer is, let's say, well, let's go ahead and just create one more field. So now we got this new field, but maybe we really don't want it to be a plain text type. But it looks like we're locked in it, but we're not. You just hit this I here and you're going to get more information about this one field. You can change the name. Maybe we'll call it login. You can change the type. We'll change it to a password type. And then you can hit done. And now when you come back here, it treats it like a password. And it changed the name. So that's really handy if you accidentally didn't get something right about it. You can change those details later. So I tried to make it so that nothing is sacred and that everything can be changed later. The other thing that you can do is you can change your icon and your heading name just by tapping up here. And then you can change the icon change the name, and you'll see when we come back here now it's changed. So that's really handy if you didn't mean to have some icon, or if you're getting sick of looking at the Twitter icon, you can always go change it later on. Notes, when you edit them, you get this nice big view as opposed to the smaller one. That's why I was saying you want to have your type reflect something about the type of information, because most of those types I differentiate and handle them differently. Like for revealing the password, I only can do that if I know that it's a password. Now, a little handy trick that you can do is maybe you want to copy your password to the clipboard and then go here and go to Safari, so you can have your password in the clipboard, launch to Safari, and then paste it in the password field if you don't want to have to type a long password. Alright, let's go back here. This is the Facebook one, and if you remember, we created this one from a template. Here you can see this is the template that I created the information for you off of. Was a web login, and so it created a website, a username and password. And the nice thing is that's a nice way to get a password started, and then later you can go in, add sections, add fields, just like we did before, but at least you have somewhere to start, so you're not just left with a blank screen like you were in the past. Again, you can go here to edit. You can reorder your keys. You can delete them, but remember, again, once you've deleted them, they're gone for good. So let's go ahead and exit here and cover one last thing, and that's a couple more of the settings. So we already looked at auto check password, and then there's this thing of sounds. Now 1.0 has sounds on by default, and if you don't like the sounds in 1.2, don't worry, you can turn them off. So I kind of like the sounds, but if you don't, you just go in here, turn them off. Maybe you only have one caddy, or maybe you have a couple, but there's one that you always open. You can turn this guy on here, pick the one that you always want to open by default, and now when you exit, you get to skip that opening screen and go directly to entering your password for whatever your default key is, which in my case was the software one. So that's pretty handy. You can always change it to a different one if you want. Exit, come back in, and every time you just come straight to this screen and open it automatically. I think that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoy the software. If you have any suggestions for me, feel free to drop me a line at PassCaddy@gmail.com, or come to PasswordCaddy.net and submit something on the contact page, or even drop into our forums and drop me a note. I really would love to hear from you. Look forward to your feedback, and hope you're looking forward to updates from me. Thank you.